So today I'm gonna go ahead and plant a few things. I have been struggling so hard with squirrels. Squirrels are the biggest pest in my garden. My entire back portion of my yard is all trees, and I have rabbits, squirrels, and deer that all roam back there. Doesn't help that my property also has 2 mulberry trees, so plenty of things for the squirrels to feast on, and then they wander into my garden and decapitate so many of my vegetables. So far, pretty much all of my giant sunflowers that are supposed to be up to 8 feet tall have been decapitated. I left them in the ground in the hopes that they would send off shoots between the armpits. A lot of them have. One of them got the rest of its leaves chewed off. But this morning, I found one of my tomatillo plants had been decapitated, and unluckily, tomatillos need at least 2 plants in order to pollinate. They cross-pollinate each other, and so I had to go and pick up a spare or a new tomatillo plant. I got 2 just in case that they decided to eat this one as well. Usually I would start all of my plants. This year I didn't actually get tomatillos until about a few weeks after the last frost, and so wasn't really enough time, at least in my zone, to go ahead and start those. So I bought starts from a local nursery that is here probably 20 minutes from my house. So I'm not too sure on the varieties because really all these plants here are tomatillos. But we'll see how well they do. My sister always struggles with tomatillo plants. I don't think she's actually gotten a good harvest of tomatillos, so I'm hoping to go ahead and actually get a harvest this year. I'm wanting to can a lot of salsa, and there's a really good salsa verde recipe that my sister gets from her mother-in-law. So for my tomatillo plants, I'm just gonna go ahead and lightly break apart the roots at the base, just so that they'll grab hold of the soil. They're pretty dry, and the root systems on these plants are pretty good. I went ahead and checked this before I bought them. They're nice and white, and they weren't root bound, so these are good. So last season, my brother-in-law actually gave me a few containers. They're actually preen weed eaters. I went ahead and washed them out really well last year with soap and water. I don't actually use preen, and I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to seep into my plant. I like to reuse containers just because it is eco-friendly, and I'll use these until they start breaking down and I can no longer use them. But for containers for growing my plants, they're perfect. So since I bought 2 new tomatillo plants, I'm gonna go ahead and fill this 3rd container with some fresh soil just to give it a little more life. So again, for this project, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Nature's Care organic soil, and it's from the Miracle Grow company, just because it is what I have on hand, and it'll work perfectly. So this tomatillo plant is actually a little more root bound than the first one. As you can see, it's not quite circling the bottom yet, but it was just a matter of time before that would happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and break these apart a little bit and then plant this in the 3rd container. So for this poor soul, I'm gonna go ahead and throw him in my compost pile. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in my garage and save for seed starting for next season. So I'm hoping that by planting 2 extra tomatillo plants, maybe I'll get away with having 2 throughout the season. We'll see. I may end up having to put up a fence. I did have a fence around my 2 larger beds last year, but with having my dogs lead, and my dog also uses my backyard, he often gets caught up around my fences, and that's why I didn't put fences up so far this year. Plus it's a little bit more of a hassle trying to get in and out of to harvest. But we'll see. I may end up having to put one back up. Fingers crossed I don't have to, but maybe by planting more, I will be also feeding myself while feeding the animals that also live in my backyard. So don't mind all of my weeds. I eventually will get there. It's one of those things that you can pull as many as you want and they just always come back. I typically do like to pull my weeds after it's rained or after I've watered, just because then you can get the whole root system up. But I actually bought a couple different varieties of herbs from the local nursery that I checked out. They just had some unique varieties. So this one is a lemon thyme, and then I also got a hot and spicy oregano, as well as a barbecue rosemary, which I thought sounded so good. I do have just the common varieties of these, but I can't help myself when I find or come across one that I've never heard of or never tried. So I'm gonna go ahead and find good spots for these. I know for the thyme and the oregano, I'm gonna need to find a place where it can't take over my entire garden, as they do like to spread, and at least here in my zone, they are perennials. So lucky for me, I had exactly 3 containers in my garage. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually drill a hole in the bottom of all 3 of these, just so that there is drainage. The bottom of it actually has a nice dip or well, so it'll actually keep some of the water in there if I drill on this indented part here. So I've got my holes in the bottom of my containers. I'm gonna grab my soil and then I'm gonna go ahead and plant these bad boys. So it looks like a lot of these herbs that I got are actually this one's pretty root round. As you can see, it was actually growing out the bottom. It'll still be okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and break these apart a little bit and then plant it in the soil. So now that my rosemary, sage, and thyme are all planted in pots, I'm gonna go ahead and find good spots for them. I'm thinking just along my walkway here somewhere. It's where a lot of my pots are. It's where also this area of my garden gets the most sun. Herbs that I just planted, I'm going to go ahead and actually prune them. That way they become bushier, plus they're kind of needing it. So with my hot and spicy oregano, I'm just gonna go ahead and pinch off a good amount. This will get it to grow bushier, giving me more herbs. I just want to leave a few true leaves around the base on each of the stems. And you can actually see where a lot of these guys are actually putting off side shoots in the armpits of the herbs. So with this guy, you can go ahead and actually kind of see where it's sending off its little side shoots. Same with this guy. So this will get nice and healthy and produce a lot for me. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and grab my garden shears as well as my harvest basket. So I'll be right back. So this harvest basket I actually got from a fellow YouTuber, Jill from Whispering Willow Farm. She had a big sale. I'm not sure what the sale was, but these are handmade baskets. But it is beautiful, and I can't wait to fill it with all of the glorious fruits and vegetables from my hard labor and work, from things that I've grown in my own garden. So with thyme has a thicker stem, so it's best to use garden shears, just cut those just because you don't want to damage the plant too much. So with this guy, I'm just going to go ahead and say leave about 3 or 4 inches from the base. So this guy's going to go ahead and actually bush out a whole bunch for me. And I'll actually go ahead and show you guys where I dry my herbs. So I'm thinking for the hot and spicy oregano, I might actually try to incorporate that into a salsa. The oregano and thyme, I think I'm actually going to try to make barbecue sauce this year. So I think that this barbecue thyme is going to be delightful in that. Never made homemade barbecue sauce before, but there's a first for everything. So while I'm out here, I'm gonna go ahead and actually harvest some catnip. I have a cat, he's indoor. His name is Luther, but I like growing his own catnip. Just another part of my life that I'm trying to transform into being more organic. Plus, he dies for it, so go ahead and get some of that. It's the same with the other herbs. You want to leave at least some of the leaves on there, just so that it will grow back bushier. And it has been raining a lot here, so a lot of the stuff has gained a lot from all the nutrients and minerals that come from rainwater. Green stock, I have a variety of things. I got the leaf planter, which is a shallower depth than the original, I believe it is. But I'm kind of pushing the limits with it. I'm going to go ahead, or I went ahead and actually planted in eggplants, sunflowers on the top tier, as well as some pimento peppers, Mad Hatter peppers, sweet peas, strawberries, and a couple different varieties or variations of herbs. I'm gonna go ahead and actually get some of my dill. It's been doing really well in the planter, as well as my strawberries. They have been a little bit smaller, so I may end up having to move it later or next season, just so it gets a little more sun, because it is covered by my mulberry tree that sits right above it. Let's go ahead and get some of my dill. So with dill, you just take the arm that is no longer wrapped around the main stem. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this guy has new growth up here. But this arm that's off to the side, I can go ahead and harvest.